Let's get banned from TV. Welcome to the St. Canard Files, the Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm Mike Russo, and I can't say no to my little girl. Not if I want to wake up in the morning.
Oh man, what's going on, Mike?
Things are great. I'm really excited to be here tonight because we are talking about Hot Spells, the very infamous banned Darkwing Duck episode. I know lots of our listeners have waited for this one for a while. They had to wait a couple of extra weeks because we were working something out. We have a couple of the writers of this episode with us.
Yeah, it's their fault. It's their fault it's banned.
Now we know who to blame. Well, we have returning guest. He's been on a bunch of episodes. We have Jim Peterson. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be back.
He was on our Ghoul of My Dreams episode, and he was on the special Bushroot tribute. Yeah. He was also on our virtual panel last summer as well. So
yeah, he sure was. That's right.
So we are very happy that the creator of Bushroot, the co-creator of Bushroot, is back with us. We also have one of his writing partners, John Behnke. Welcome, John.
Glad to be here.
We couldn't get Rob Humphreys. He had a previous commitment. We wish he was here. But if you ever listen to this, Rob, you know, we wish you well. But welcome, Jim and John.
Yeah. Two of the trio's not bad. Two of the trio ain't bad.
That's right.
And again, these guys created Bushroot. They created Ammonia Pine. They wrote Dirty Money, Beauty and the Beat, Comic Book Capers, Ghoul of My Dreams, It's a Wonderful Leaf, Twitching Channels, all classics, and Hot Spells.
Right? Yeah. Yes.
So Mike, out of all those episodes, which one's your favorite?
Ooh, that's really hard. It's really a toss-up between Comic Book Capers, Wonderful Leaf, and Twitching Channels. I think the big one is Comic Book Capers is definitely one of my favorites. How about yours, Will?
You know I'm a Morgana guy, so I'm gonna go with Hot Spells.
Yeah, you guys also reinvented Morgana. For Ghoul of My Dreams, pretty much.
Yeah. That was that was mostly at Tad and
I mean, you understand that we didn't pitch that. That was given to us, I think, by Tad, the premise. So right. Tad was very hands-on as a producer and creator, and he had a clear idea what he wanted to do with Morgana, and we pretty much followed in, didn't we, Jim?
Oh yeah. In that one though, in particular, the line of yours about student debt was not in the original.
No, that was my line, yes, because I had some student loans from grad school that I was still paying off, and so she's flying over, putting the magic dust over the city. She says, what is the line?
That's like the best line of the episode.
Yeah, it is.
You know, a few years ago when they put together character profiles for the Joe Book Darkwing comics, that's the Morgana quote they used to represent her.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't get any kickback on any of this. So.
Right. But
so before we start, I know we talked to Jim a little bit the first time we had you on about how you got involved with Disney and Darkwing Duck. But John, how did you get involved with Disney and Darkwing Duck?
Well, I met Rob and Jim in when I was in film school, and they had been making films together since they were kids. So we started working together there, and then when we went to Disney, I had there was a woman from my hometown who was a vice president at Disney, and not in animation. She was in TV production. She sent me over to see Tad. At the time, I thought I was just looking for a job, and I thought I was going to get a PA job. And so when I went into Tad's office, he pitched me Double O Duck, which you know was the original.
Yeah.
And then for one of the rare cases in my life, I kept quiet. And when he got done, he said, could you get me a premise? First, I said, I have two writing partners. You know, he didn't have any problem with that because he was going to pay us the same amount for the three of us for one. Didn't matter. So he said, can you get me a premise by next week? And I said, sure. And then I went back to Rob and Jim and I said, do either of you guys know what a premise is? Because we never heard that term in conjunction with writing. You know, it was the tiered step that you went through then. And so I think we looked it up in the dictionary. You know, I was like, oh yeah, that it also means this is writing, you know.
Yeah.
And then they sent us some samples and a cool Bible. Tad had a great initial Bible for Double a Duck. It had, you know, all these drawings and characters in it. And I think out of those first 5 premises we gave him that week, I think 3 of them became scripts, which is a pretty good average.
Yeah.
Particularly for starting, we were really lucky.
Yeah.
So that's how I got in, and then after that we freelanced for years, and then they put us on staff.
Yeah.
Which while we were freelancing, they told us they would never do.
Because then we got
it was too expensive.
We had a phrase when we were freelance. It was 3 writers for the price of 1. But when we went on staff, we were 3 writers for the price of 3 writers. Or no, 1 writer.
We were 1 writer for the price of 3. Then, you know, that was their problem. It was a great show to work on. It really was. It was one of my, you know, in all the years, it still is one of my favorite shows. It was well run, and the characters were popped, and they were fun, and
you guys wrote some of the best episodes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about hot spells specifically tonight, and hot spells from air date from the last one you guys did, it was like a 9-month gap. Was there this gap where you guys were just away from the show, and then how did that work? Because it was the only one you did that season.
Yeah, the air dates didn't relate to when we wrote them.
Right.
So they would get them done, and then they would put them in their schedule where they were going to be. So we'd written that, Jim. When we wrote that, we were on staff.
Oh, we were on staff, and we were writing Bonkers. Tad came and he wanted to borrow us. He got permission to borrow us from Bonkers. I don't know. He probably had finished like Tune for a Day or something like that.
But my memory, Jim, was that we actually wrote first. No, we tried to write Valentine's Ghoul.
Right. Yeah. But that was earlier. That was before.
That was earlier. That was when we first got on staff, and we got through an outline and we couldn't crack it, and they gave that to Doug Langdale, who was, you know.
Yeah, and then we moved on to the right. Yeah.
They put you on Wonderful Leaf, right, Jim?
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. That is correct. Yeah. Right. But then we were done. Oh, and then we picked up the outline for Twitching Channels from Dean, because he had gone back to Goof Troop. But after Twitching Channels, we were done. We went over to Bonkers full time.
Was there
we were kind of loaned out to Tad because we were hired to write on Bonkers, actually.
Was there a specific reason why Tad wanted you on Hot Spells specifically?
Well, probably because we'd written her before.
For that, and he wanted to base the show off of your line about.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, I remember you saying, because the thing was, there was a user group on the internet, on the early days of the internet. You know, it was very crude, out of New Zealand, and somebody had used that as like their tagline, and Ted was a fan of. He was following user, you know.
Yeah, he was ahead of the game. Yeah,
and he was like, the thought occurred to Ted that, who does she owe all this money to?
Makes sense.
It was a throwaway line, and Tad would take it and then, you know, make it into something larger. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So the line actually, that's why I wanted to bring it up like earlier, because it was like, yeah.
I've told
so you were ultimately responsible, John. I'm sorry.
So maybe you can blame Disney, can blame me for the banned episode. I will tell you though, when you're writing, because you don't always hear things, you just see something on the page. We had written the entire first episode of Ghoul of My Dreams. Is that the one? Was that the first one we wrote?
With the first one with Morgana.
Yeah, with Morgana for us. It was like the second episode of her. And I did not perceive that her last name was a pun. because on the page,
Macabre, yeah.
yeah, macabre, and then of course, so macaw is a bird. So it wasn't a name we came up with; it was a Tad name, I'm sure, because he loved pun names. I didn't, I was just, that was her name, and then I think we went to the recording and I went, oh, macabre, yeah. So that tells you sometimes even when you're writing it, I was out of the loop on that inside joke.
This is way off topic, but I just remember. Do you remember going to the recording of It's a Wonderful Leaf? I think it was the only.
Yes, I remember this, Jim. That we didn't.
We wrote a line about enough
holiday hyperbole.
Yes,
the way we thought it was
hyperbole.
Instead of hyperbole.
And I think it was Jim Cummings said, I think it's hyperbole.
And not only that, if you think about it, holiday hyperbole is a lot funnier.
It is, yes.
When you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, when you're writing, you just pull the word because Darkwing spoke in alliteration a lot. He would like holiday hyperbola, and so you would just go through the thesaurus of the dictionary and find words that you can put together.
Exactly.
It really was a fun show to write. It was,
Because you'd often write just like a baseline, and then you go, oh, now we got a Darkwing it, make it.
Yeah, you go back and make it into Darkwing. Yeah.
Do you have any specific memories related to Hot Spells, to writing that episode? Anything that pops into your mind about the writing process of that one?
Were we at Lancashire by then, Jim? We were.
No, we were back. We were in
the old building.
Yeah, the Academy building, right? And then.
We were in the Academy building by then. Okay.
Yes, right. Because it was later. It was like we'd been off Darkwing for I don't know how long. A few months anyway, when we got pulled back in.
Right.
I remember being happy to go back and write Darkwing again because the show we were working on, Bonkers, was very troubled, and it was great to go back and write on a show that moves smoothly and the characters are fun. We all love Darkwing so much. I mean, everybody who wrote on those shows, you can't find anybody who will give you a negative on. In my opinion,
Yeah, right.
Some really incredible talented producers.
I've never heard of a single person who didn't like working on Darkwing. I mean, Bonkers, on the other hand, but
yes, well,
Darkwing, yeah.
Bonkers was it was a different animal altogether.
The show Disney tried to forget, and now it's all up on it's all up on Disney Plus.
You do a panel on that, and you would have an interesting panel. That would, you would have. You might have to censor a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Because the words would
some of that, yeah. The only thing I remember, like specifically, was because I think I was working on the first part. What we eventually decided, well, after the first couple scripts, that it was easier for us to break it up into thirds, and we would rotate who did Act 1, who Act 2, who did Act 3. It didn't quite split up that way. 2 got the person who did Act 2. Act 1 is almost half the episode. So
I've noticed that about Disney shows.
Yeah, the person who did Act 2 would get part of Act 1, the latter part of Act 1, and then there would also be a little spillover.
So it also meant everybody got so that the first guy would not get an act break, but the other 2 guys would get an act break.
Right.
Because they would follow the middle of their material.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would take that material, because there were 3 of us, and then rotate it after you'd written your material.
After the outline or something, right?
Yeah. You'd say, okay, you wouldn't, and the reason for it was so that you wouldn't get completely attached to an idea or something if you moved it around. You could give it to a new eye to see.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I was doing Act 1, and I was trying to get introduced the headmaster.
Oh yeah.
And they go in, and Darkwing sees the desk is all dusty, and he's gonna brush it off or something, and then he makes a line, and then the dust turns into the headmaster, and again, it's one of those thesaurus lines where it was like, what did he say? It's fine line between dust and disincorporation. And I'm like, oh, that'll be fun to say.
Oh yeah,
even though I can't really pronounce it myself.
Did you guys know Marty Ingalls was voicing? You must have, because he was in the first episode he was in. How is it?
They'd shown us to hadn't that been, or at least heard it, Jim, didn't we?
I think I remember.
I think the other one was done. We'd seen his character.
Oh yeah, in Dead Duck, he's in that one.
Yeah, he's in Dead Duck, right? Yeah, and that was a great episode.
So what was it like writing dialogue for him? Because he's one of the best parts of that episode.
Yeah, but I don't think to be truthful, we didn't channel him, to be honest. I maybe Jim did. I didn't. I just wrote the character.
Probably. I think it was one of those cases where you kind of go, we'll do what he spell out what he needs to say, and he's going to put his
spin on it.
Right? Yeah.
But you can tell he's taking your lines and he's turning it into his own, which works for the character. He's great.
Yeah. He was good.
Yeah. And Jim Cummings would do that like all the time as well. He'd get a feel. He had such a feel for the character that
Jim was
right.
Yeah, you'd go, oh yeah, that's great.
The nice thing too, at that point in writing that show, the other characters, you knew their voice. You really did. So if you were writing Goslin, because that's really her episode, and you knew that Goslin, of course, was based on Tad's daughter. Yeah. In part, but the character was completely different, and she was a great character to write. So at that time, you had the voice of those characters in your head when you were writing them. Darkwing and Launchpad was, again, pretty strong to.
Who wasn't in this episode? Funny enough.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. I don't remember
the only one that season he's not in.
What did we do? How did he not appear?
Not at all. He's not even in it.
This doesn't come,
No, I think it was okay to leave him out. I think we were already worried about having too many characters to service, and that's kind of like a Kevin Hops idea, where if you're going to have a character there, you got to give them.
Give them a line. If they couldn't just stand in the background, they had to.
Right. Yeah. So you had to have like something for like Launchpad to do, and it's like, well, he doesn't figure into the story at all. So
that makes sense.
Did you guys get to watch the episode before it aired?
I don't remember seeing that. I remember seeing it when it.
I did. Maybe
I saw it was done. I don't remember seeing it before it aired. Maybe we did, Jim. Maybe Tad brought us in the office because it aired on Halloween.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But we probably did. Usually, because we were in house, they'd say, "Hey, you want to see this episode you wrote?" And we would go watch them.
Yeah.
Until we worked on Bonkers, then we started avoiding seeing them because it would make the rest of the day pretty hard.
Well, it's very the early Miranda episodes. They were. Anyway.
Well, we don't want to go on to that. I was going to say that in the second episode that we wrote for Disney, the Beauty and the Beast, which I have a fondness of all the cartoons I've ever written for. That's the Bushroot origin story. We came up with a term. There was a point with Launchpad where we had too many characters in the scene, so we had Bushroot threw a pumpkin on his head.
Love it.
Stuck inside the pumpkin because we'd always get these Kevin Hart notes. He's got to say something. Well, then we put a pumpkin on his head. Okay. So later, this was a term that Rob and Jim and I would use to describe if we had a character and we needed to give them something to do so we didn't have to deal with them. So we would say, we got to pumpkin that character.
Okay.
It was just a simple way of going, okay, they're stuck in the closet.
That's, what's funny, guys, that's really noticeable in ABC season 2, because Goslin's gotten to be such a strong character that Launchpad does start to feel like a third wheel that season.
All back, yeah.
So there are episodes where they find ways to get rid of Launchpad. In Malice's restaurant, they sent Launchpad off looking for Negaduck somewhere else entirely. Then the episode ends and Launchpad comes back. He goes, "Oh, I missed the fight."
Yeah. Sometimes you could have fun with it. I mean, it was particularly in Darkwing, they would have these huge omnibus when they were Justice Ducks or whatever. They'd have, you'd had 15 characters in a scene you got to deal with.
Yeah.
So you really had to kind of pick the, your battle. You only had 22 minutes to get everybody, service.
Yeah, and there's a lot of characters in Hot Spells. You got Morgana's family, you got Beelzebub, you got Goslin and Morgana and Darkwing. I don't see room for Launchpad in this episode.
And wasn't the young Muddlefoot, he wasn't there?
Oh,
No.
they had a cameo.
No.
They had, the Muddlefoots did have a cameo though.
But no Honker.
No.
Honker,
Oh,
okay.
okay. Yeah.
Honker wasn't in any of your episodes.
Yeah, he
was in one. He was in It's a Wonderful Leave.
He gets one line.
One
line.
He gets. We have a story about that too. That Kevin Hobbs said that he had the gag where Honker puts the bear trap for Santa.
Tank. Yeah, it was Tank. Yeah.
Oh, it's Tank, her other brother, other brother Tank, and we didn't particularly like that gag, so he put it in we'd take it out and it would appear again, So we took it out of the script and then he put it back in. So we referred to that as a bear trap gag, which was a gag that the producer wanted. And that was the last time Tank appeared, I think.
Yeah.
It's the last time he ever appeared.
I think maybe Tad didn't like him, and that's why he wanted them to get clamped with a bear trap.
Maybe.
I always heard.
It was actually, I think, Kevin Hobbs who kept wanting to. That wasn't Tad's gag. It was
I had heard Tad was tired of Tank and wanted to get rid of him. So I didn't.
Possible, yeah.
So he just.
Maybe that was what the issue was, Jim. We didn't know because we don't always know what was going on.
20 years later, they're going to find a skeleton up there in the chimney.
just like in Gremlins, the dad stuck in the chimney.
Right.
So,
I'm sure somewhere, on DeviantArt or something, somebody's drawn the picture of him stuck up there.
I'm sure, probably.
That's where he's been the whole time.
Yes.
Other thing, just in specific memory, was after the fact when we started getting the first wind of that management saw this as a problematic episode was, or maybe it wasn't done yet. Maybe it was just in the recording stage where Goslin's line where in Act 3, where she says, sorry, Dad, didn't mean to start the apocalypse.
Funny line. I like it. That was Jim's line.
Dad, I didn't mean to start the apocalypse.
And that didn't stay in, did it?
No.
Well, then what happened, Jim, then?
They said, no, you can't say apocalypse.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Armageddon first. So we said, okay, sorry, Dad, I didn't mean to start Armageddon. Oh, no, you can't say that either. Legal came back and said, you can't say that. And then it ended up being, sorry, Dad, didn't mean to start the final battle between good and evil.
That's the line that's in there, is the final battle.
Jim, when's the last time you seen the episode?
I've watched it a couple times, but you only really YouTube,
Okay.
bad recordings of it.
I think every copy that's out there is from that original ABC airing.
Wow.
A lot of them have those ABC after these messages bumpers stuck to them. I think everything out there just comes from that one airing.
Yeah. So it's pretty muddled, and the dialogue is not very distinct. So it
seems like Disney should get beyond it at this point. But it is so. If you've seen it, there's nothing. It's so bland. I can't remember if he's called Bub.
Beelzebub. They do call him Beelzebub a couple of times.
He's not called the devil or Satan anywhere in there. And he's beaten. It's not a pro devil worshiping episode, and Goslin learns her lesson. If anything, it's the opposite. It seems pretty tame, even next to Harry Potter or any of that.
But you even got episodes like Dead Duck where he does die.
Yeah.
And St. Peter and Beelzebub are fighting over his soul, and he's trying to escape the Grim Reaper. Like, Disney had no problem with that, maybe because it was a syndicated show. They had no problem with it. Hot Spells, I don't see much in that one. Maybe a couple of mentions about trying to save Darkwing's soul. Other than that, there's nothing. Like
that's what I find so strange about it. That I think you are right. It was because as we were working along, we didn't know what shows would get pulled and where they would get put. So even though we were freelancing, 3 of the first 10, we were in the first 10. Now, we weren't in the first 10 written. There had been multiple shows written before we came on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was just later scheduling did that. Or, you know, that was higher up even than Tad. I think Tad had favorites that he wanted to go on. But they would pick out of that whole season, because this was when they did 65 and they were still syndicating everything. They would take 13, was it 13 or 26, Jim? 26?
Oh, for ABC?
Yeah, ABC took 13.
I think 13, yeah.
13. So, and they chose them.
Yes.
That's the
ABC
interesting thing. It said they would go sit with Tad and, you know, we want these 13 to be on ABC. So that was an extra kudo if you were on, you know, not just the syndication, but that show was going to be featured on ABC. So ABC chose Hot Spells as their Halloween special. So it not only had made its way through the Disney BS&P hierarchy that, you know, checks all those things, that would have also had an extra level of ABC to check and make sure that, you know, everything was okie dokie. But they got complaints after it aired from we were told from Southern channels, stations, where the religious right was stronger, and then
I guess more people are more likely to be watching a network Saturday morning show than something syndicated after school. So all those other cartoons, Darkwing episodes, got away with it because the eyes weren't really on them, were they?
Yeah,
apparently not. Yeah,
there were no repercussions for us, though. I mean, we didn't. You know, nobody ever said a thing to us.
I just think it's strange, Mike, though, that Hot Spells has not seen the time of day when the 2 Tailspins have, and I think those are far worse, you know?
I think if Darkwing Duck was complete on DVD, they probably would have put Hot Spells on there, because DVD is different than television or even streaming. You have to purchase
I thought Darkwing was on I know they have a DVD set.
The first 54 syndicated shows are on DVD. None of the ABCs and the last 11 episodes from
okay.
So most of Darkwing, but not all of it.
Okay.
So you just think it's it sounds better that they have some secret reason, but my bet is this is a oversight within Disney, really.
I think so too, because Bonkers episodes were pulled off the air after the Oklahoma City bombing, and they're on Disney Plus.
Right.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like bunch of Bonkers episodes were pulled off TV, and all 65 are up there. And I was shocked when I saw them. But Hot Spells, nope. Hot Spells is the one half an hour of Disney afternoon programming that is legit banned and you cannot find.
It is really, you're saying it's the only banned?
Well, the banned Tailspin and DuckTales episodes are on DVD. The ones they won't put on Disney Plus, you can at least find them on physical media. Hot Spells, you can't legally find that, period.
You know, I'm kind of proud of that, Jim, aren't you?
It's the only one. Only one. You can catch anything else legally as long as you buy the DVDs. But
yeah, John and Jim, when we first started our podcast, I told Mike there's another reason why Hot Spells gets another push on why it's one of my favorite episodes. I said because to me it's like it's the forbidden fruit. You're not allowed to watch it, you know?
Yes. Again, I wish there was something I could say that we had snuck in there, you know, like, they found out we put that in there, but we didn't, you know.
Biggest shame it's a good episode, too.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, you know, it was fun. And it's kind of funny in retrospect because all of this became commonplace with, you know, Harry Potter, but that was, I don't know when the first book came out, but it was years later after, you know, so we, you know, I don't think we were drawing on any
no,
I
don't think.
First of all,
again, this was Tad.
Just
this was Tad's. You know, he pulled us back in, like Twitching Channel. We didn't, you know, that was them coming to us and saying we need you to write this. You know, they didn't. We didn't go and write a premise for that.
No, right? Yeah.
I will tell you about that on a side note on Twitching Channel. The first marching orders we got, because they were going to go to the studio, the characters, Darkwing was going to the real world and he would meet all these characters. And they were all based on Tad, there was a Rockwell character, and then there was a
Kevin
Crosby character who was
Crosby,
was Kevin Hops's middle name, and even Tad's assistant Susan McElroy. She had a little cameo, but they told us right away, you cannot write yourself into this episode. What? You can't write writers into this?
Yeah.
I don't think we had any cameos at Disney, did we, Jim?
No, other than the monkeys from Tsubalami.
Oh, yeah, Marsupilami. Yeah, those monkeys were.
Yeah, they were our namesakes.
Yeah. And the really mighty Ducks is sort of,
Yes.
that episode is really sort of the three of us.
Yeah.
There is a Darkwing episode, I forget which one, where a character is like listing names and goes, is it John, Jim, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
I forget which episode that is.
Oh, it's
it's something like
it's a sick.
you can't tell
soap opera.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Oh, it's on Twitching Channel, right?
It is Twitching. Yeah, and now I remember.
Okay, so we slipped ourselves.
Okay, we did.
Sorry,
we did sneak ourselves into the.
I think we probably only thought of that because they told us not to do it.
Because they told us not to, right? Told us not to.
Right.
Yeah, I can't. I really can't think of it. I'd like to have some dark secret that we could tell you about this episode, but the truth was, it was, it wasn't that different than any of the other Darkwings we wrote.
Typical show.
Yeah, really, it was kind of a typical show. We didn't think of it as controversial at all. Really,
no.
Sometimes there are stories to tell with banned episodes of shows, and just sometimes.
I think the only concern of ours was, because it was so Gotham heavy. I know we'd always like to, try to bring it back to Darkwing, and stuff like that, try to balance, characters out and stuff. But it's, as you said, it's really Gosling's episode.
And it has the great joke about Darkwing's eternal torment being the Muddlefoots.
Oh, I forgot
that's
that.
such a great joke.
Yes.
The Pelican's Island.
Come on in.
So John, when did you find out the episode was getting pulled, that it was getting banned?
It was much later. It was after it had aired, and I don't remember getting told then. And we were so caught up. Years. Yeah, it might have been. It might have been after we were gone from Disney, to be honest.
Yeah.
That we heard about that it was banned. We were on to another show, and it was very engrossing and problematic. And you're already behind the loop when you're writing animation, even more so than live action, because it takes so long to turn a cartoon around.
Yeah.
That it would be, 9 months or longer before the rough of an episode would come back. And you might have written, 3 more scripts in between. So you kind of had to recall it. So I when did it air? What was the year? 91, 92?
92.
92. Okay. So yeah, I'm sure we wrote it in, wrote it in 91 or 90, Jim? Certainly 91.
91, yeah. Yeah, it was after Darkwing was on the air, definitely.
Oh, yeah, it was a whole year after
we wrote the initial.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite a bit later.
I know as a fan, I remember seeing the episode one time, but like when syndication, was airing like with Toon Disney, I never noticed it was missing. But then when the power of the internet and I Googled Darkwing, it would always pop up banned episode of Hot Spells. I was like, that one was banned. I remember that episode, but I've never seen it again, Yeah, so the power of the internet is what I think made it really popular, that everyone knows it was banned.
That's pretty much, I don't even remember if it aired on the Disney Afternoon or not. I don't remember.
I never saw it on Toon Disney. Never saw it.
We didn't.
I don't know, because I know it aired the Halloween for ABC.
And then other than that, we didn't get.
We were kind of happy about that. I remember being told that. We were happy, like It's a Wonderful Leaf.
Yeah,
it was like kind of like a Christmas special.
Right.
and we were happy about that. You know, we didn't.
Because
we
again,
didn't
all
need
the
it before, but
all the copies I've seen of it have the ABC, you know, after these messages, we'll be right back.
Right.
All the copies I see are definitely ABC copies. I've never seen a copy with a Toon Disney logo on the corner.
Yeah,
No.
neither
No,
have
no,
I.
It,
I
it definitely didn't air there.
Yeah. Huh.
you know, I don't want you to. I don't want anybody to start a campaign. To get it back aired because it's much more singular for it to be the one band episode. So you know, it has a lot more mystique.
Mhm.
That if they put it back in the rotation, it'll just be a normal episode again.
Yeah, I do remember because we'd be still at work when the Disney afternoon was on, so we didn't really get to watch TV of our shows being aired, except for when Darkwing first premiered. We had a party at the studio, a launch party, and they had a drawing for a little Walkman TV. And I won.
Jim won. It seeed like this futuristic technology. It was a little.
I know. It was a teeny tiny little screen. But I actually when Darkwing, since it won the TV, I felt that I needed to watch the first episode aired, and it was Beauty and the Beat. And so that was pretty cool to watch it, even though it was black and white and very, very like impossible.
The studio was very good about. They had for their TVA division, and they had a nice premiere party at the lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with all kinds of games. I remember they invite all the kids in, and then Darkwing was there in costume, and
I think I've seen photos of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then we did the rap party after the initial 65 were done at it's like Santa Monica Airport or something like that.
Santa Monica Air Museum.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was a blast.
Planes and everything down by the old Santa Monica, by the airport, and
yeah, that was a blast.
That was a blast. Yeah. And then I lost long ago, sadly, my Darkwing pin. Did you lose yours, Jim? We had a.
I actually still have it. Yes.
You do.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was. Again, it was a great show to work on. And of course, I think you always got to give credit to people like Tad Stones and our great story editors like Kevin Hops and the story editor of Comic Book Caper, Carter Crocker, who was a very funny guy.
Oh yeah. I think he deserves probably even more. I mean, it was his initial premise.
Yes, that was his premise too.
But
that would. I still think for us as writers, that one was really interesting because the structure was self-referential.
Right.
So we weren't dealing with movies or cartoons, but we were dealing with comic books, which is what this was all drawn from. And then the way they did it, and that was one that I think was very well produced as well.
Right.
Going in and out of the comic books was done very well.
Yeah. That one went to Disney Australia, so that helped a lot.
Oh yes, we were
very early on. Yeah, we learned if you found out your episode was going to Australia, you're like, yeah.
I mean, Japan was good too, but Australia was kind of special.
Australia was it was also because of the language barrier sometimes early on. If you went to a studio where English was the second language, they didn't always get the timing of the performance exactly right. But you sent to Australia, you were going to get the performance.
Oh yeah, like there's that little moment where with Goslin in Comic Book Capers where she's about to write and her fingers are all,
fingers are going like this. Yeah.
What do I write next?
I don't remember where Hot Spells went. I don't think
Sunwoo. Which they not the top tier studio, but they still did a good job.
Yeah, they would.
There were worse studios. Bonkers ended up to some pretty terrible ones.
Yes.
Bonkers
better than Kennedy cartoons.
Oh God! And not only that, in the beginning, which is when you want your episodes to look nicely, and they were sending them overseas, they didn't have a single Australia in there.
No, none of the
They came
original.
back and they were just, oh gosh,
I guess
we all
Australia was
watched
really
them
busy
every-
on Goof Troop.
Right.
No.
Yes. Yeah. Goof Troop it was like the favored.
Yes.
It's goofy.
favorite
It's
child.
goofy.
Good child, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And the thing is, those people who were writing on Bonkers were the same talented people who had been working on Darkwing.
A lot of the same
artists.
names. Yeah.
oh yeah.
You look at the names, you'll see the same people who were on Darkwing or over on Bonkers. So some ideas are work better than others, and
I guess if the very premise is fundamentally wrong, there's not much you can do to save it.
yes, but once you got your marching orders, you beyond that, and you're writing characters, there were issues that could not be solved.
Yeah, right.
So it's much more fun to talk about Darkwing.
Well, it just shows how special Darkwing was.
Well,
Yeah,
definitely.
indeed.
Yeah, it was a great first show. Yeah, for certain.
We were spoiled.
We were spoiled. Yeah.
Our first show to write one was Darkwing, and it was a as writers, it was a good schooling in a way, because at that time the scripts were much more dense than they are now. So often a Darkwing script would run about 40 to 45 pages, and sometimes they even got longer than that.
Yeah.
A normal live action, normally scripts are a page a minute. So that means they were almost twice as long as a live action script. Now, animation scripts have become much more like live action is now. So they're not quite as dense as they were.
Right.
But if Darkwing was going to scratch his ear, you had to say it. You literally had to say how he did it.
Yeah, I've read a handful of scripts, and they are very, very detailed.
Yes, extremely detailed, and
Even down to tone of voice. That's all written out.
Oh right.
Oh yeah. We had story editors who would put things in bold sometimes, which you never do, in a script now, or a lot of underlining.
I think the first time like a character appeared, they had to be. We had a lot of like
bolded.
Things like that. You bolded for the first time they appear, and if a prop had to be designed, then you needed to call that out, and
if they got onto the Thunderquack, you always had to write they put their seatbelt on.
right.
Because
Exactly
even though that was marching orders, that would come back to us. Why didn't you write? You're like, that should just be in the packet.
Right,
that should take up space in the script.
They're in the plane. They have to wear their seatbelts.
Helmets. You had to say they put their helmet on. And if you just said helmet on because it was going to say Korea, and they wouldn't think this, you'd have to say first, Darkwing takes his hat off and puts his helmet on. So you would have to be that specific. That doesn't always give you the funniest reading script.
No, that's true.
Because you're describing all those.
Yeah, and Kevin had a pretty hard rule about the number of lines that a character can have.
Oh yeah.
Before you described what was happening, because
dialogue lines.
Yeah, so if you got to like three lines, you're already pushing it, and 4 was like right out.
Yeah, right out. You have to break that up with an action like Darkwing scratches his chin. You could always tell somebody who hadn't written animation, because they would turn in a great big old speech, like a half a page speech, and you're like, no, that's never gonna, Now there's nothing wrong if you've written really funny, and certainly in live action, characters can speak as long as they're saying something funny. But in animation, it was boom, 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 down the page.
I want to thank you guys for being on with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And you guys have so much information. I know we could probably sit here for another hour doing this. But I want to ask you guys if there's anything you want to plug before we go. Jim?
No, just keep watching and listening to Canard Files, of course.
Thank you. And John?
Same thing. I would say keep watching. You can check me out on IMDb and see what other shows I've written on and check some of those out. But I don't have anything specific to plug at this point, but keep watching Darkwing because that's a great show.
Well, it's his 30th anniversary this year too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it time has gone by so quick. I mean, so much of it, is like fresh in my memory that it seems unreal that it was that long ago. So,
and Will, is there anything you want to give shout outs or anything you want to mention before we close?
I just want to give a shout out to all the fans who love Hot Spells because it's so talked about on all our forums, all our groups, and any Darkwing Duck page. It's always talked about. Hot Spells just never goes away.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to send money to Joe and I, that's always open.
Are you telling?
I'm kidding. Don't. I'm kidding.
And we are the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. You can find us on all podcast apps. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, Google, iTunes. You can watch us on YouTube. We're on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public, and many, many, many other sites. And I guess that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you once again for being on with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was fun.
And until next time, we're going to actually be bringing you the Hot Spells discussion. Me and Will will be reviewing the episode. So until then, everybody stay dangerous.
Stay dangerous and stay magical.
Good night.
Okay.